Alright, what's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here, jumping in on the live stream here to do an update video on today. For today, I should say. September 16th, 2020, about 7:15 p.m. West Coast time here in California. We're still a little smoky. It's getting better, but still pretty smoky outside. Latest earthquake here on the map showing a 4.3 magnitude quake right around the Indonesia islands area, I should say. Some older earthquake activity out there from just about 24 hours ago, getting ready to drop off the globe. We're going to cover the rest of the globe here in a little bit, but first I want to start off with the activity that's taken place kind of out here in the Pacific Northwest. This is information, Tremor information from the pnsn.org website, and they're the ones that kind of keep track of the tremor and whatnot at the Cascadia Subduction Zone slippage level, and it's Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. If you want to check them out after this update video, they got a lot of useful, resourceful information there in the on that website there. So we're looking at today's activity. I'm gonna have this set for today. I'm gonna show you guys the bigger view here once I click the search button, which goes back a few days to the 11th, right about the time this huge cluster of tremor started. And you can see just today, today's once again, there's still quite a bit of activity in the Pacific Northwest, and also into southern Oregon and northern California. Now, if you notice down here, a little bit further south here, right around the area where we've seen a I believe it was a 3.3 magnitude strike there in Northern California just about an hour ago. Right around that area where we're seeing some more tremor being picked up. Now, this is activity that takes place way down below the surface level, and it's not earthquakes. It's not your typical earthquake activity. It cannot be felt at the surface level by humans or animals. It takes some very sensitive equipment to pick this stuff up. A little bit of information about the Cascadia Subduction Zone here is, well, it's a pretty big megaquake subduction area, if you will. First, let me read this here about the tremor. This here is an article from the Wikipedia page. Tremor, a type of slow fault event or slow fault slip, occurs along almost the entire length of the Cascadia at regular intervals of 13 to 16 months. But this, I've been watching this for a long time, and it can occur pretty much anytime it wants to. Tremor occurs deeply on the subduction interface, then the locked area where megathrust earthquakes occur. So this is not occurring, at the surface, not occurring anywhere near the locked section of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. It's occurring further down fault, further downstream, if you will. Roughly about 28 to 45 kilometers or so. You can see that ranges right there. And the motion is so slow that it cannot be felt at the surface by people or animals, but it can be measured that's a good word, geodetically? Yeah, okay. You guys get it. The high density of tremor activity in Cascadia occurs from northern Washington into southern Vancouver Island and into northern California. Tremor in the Cascadia is monitored by these folks here that I mentioned. There's a lot of activity, or a lot of information, I should say, to look at it. Look at what's going on here. There's a lot of little diagrams and whatnot. We'll go ahead and pull up this little article right here. You can see a little layout, a little diagram of the North American continent over here with Washington included. This goes for Oregon and California as well. You can see the locked section sits just right off here. I got another map here that I'll show you guys that's a little bit more informative, I should say. But this is the general direction of the slippage here, going down. That's why I say downstream down here, further deep down below the surface here. We do get some big quakes down there on occasion, and a lot of surface quakes up here as well. You can see a couple of those popping off there, and some older dates. The last subduction zone earthquake, which is the lock section out here, was back in 1700. Now it's, let's go ahead and get rid of that real quick. There's another article that I want to show you guys here, and it does discuss about the 1700 Cascadia earthquake, and it's a big one. You know, it's a major one. It's not no rinky-dink 6.0 or even a 7.0. It can range up to about a 9.2 on the moment magnitude scale there. It's called a megathrust earthquake. Now, we don't, how should I put it? There's not always an entire rupture of the Cascadia Subduction Zone that makes these megathrust earthquakes. Sometimes we see a partial rupture, the southern half of it, or the southern section in the Northern California rupture with a potential 8.0 magnitude. So it comes and goes, and there's a little layout timeline that I want to show you guys here in a little bit too. The length of this bad boy when it ruptured was about 620 miles. That's 1,000 kilometers there, with an average slip of about 20 meters. That's 66 feet. It caused a major tsunami, of course. That's the other big thing that it can create, which struck the coast of Japan. Let's see, back in 1700, January 26 is when they're estimating that. They even got the time right there. Interesting there. Of course, Japanese records of a tsunami that does not correlate with any other Pacific Rim quake. That's how they get their information, and of course the ghost forests and whatnot up there along the Oregon coast. So yeah, here's a, let's see if I can find that other article here. I mean, it's not in this one, but there's a whole bunch of information when it comes to this specific earthquake that took place, folks. The intervals they talk about every 500 years on average. There is evidence of at least 13 events at intervals from about 300 to 900 years, with an average of this many years right there, 570 to 590. And of course, they give some earthquake dates there. So this thing could rupture today, could rupture tomorrow, or it could be possibly another 100 years. Who knows? Let's see here. Recent findings conclude that the Cascadia Subduction Zone is more complex and volatile. There we go. If I can spit the word out, maybe. If I didn't pronounce that right, then I'm going to blame it on the smoke. Than previously believed. In 2010, geologists predicted a 37% chance of an 8.2 event within about 50 years. And a 10 to 15% chance that the entire Cascadia Subduction Zone will rupture with a 9.0 event within the same time frame. And of course, I think we all know that that would be a major disaster for the West Coast, including California. I don't think anybody's prepared for that type of event. The tsunami that would be produced could reach heights of 80 to 100 feet. So imagine living along the beautiful Oregon coastline and seeing that wave come in. It would be horrendous. Oh, yeah. It's not a good thing, folks. Let me see if I can find this other page here real quick. I got a couple different ones here. Here's the timeline, Cascadia earthquake timeline. I'm sure quite a few folks have seen this. They talk about great earthquakes, and that's the entire subduction zone area, the fault that breaks there, the entire. And then there's the also very large earthquakes that are produced, and this is what I was talking about earlier, how we can see an 8.0 where it breaks along the southern half of the subduction zone here. So these little small lines here that you're seeing compared to the big lines, right? Big lines are going to be the full rupture, 9.0 or higher magnitude quake. These small lines are indicative of the large magnitude 8.0 or higher, where we just see a half of the subduction zone rupture. So kind of right here, 2,000 years, right? Of course, you can add 20 years on there. We still haven't had it happen. The last one was 1700, the big one. Prior to that, there was another big one there. Looks like a couple hundred years prior to that. Voyage of Columbus, 17. When was that? I don't even want to get into. I'm not a history teacher, okay? But you can see there's been a couple full ruptures. The last small, I shouldn't say small, but the last half of a rupture of the Cascadia Subduction Zone was even before that. And we haven't seen, I'm thinking that we will see one of these lines here in the near future, prior to the major event, a major 9.0. It seems to happen sometimes really close together. And here we are, we haven't really had no major quakes out there in the Cascadia Subduction Zone area all throughout history, except for somewhere around here. It looks like it's a little sparse when it comes to the 8.0s, but compared to everything else here, it looks like there should be a small line entered here somewhere within this vicinity to look average, or to at least look normal compared to this map here. So we'll see what happens. The Tremor is definitely getting crazy out there. I do want to bring back this here. I don't know how I got off of this page real quick, but I do want to show you guys the amount of Tremor that has taken place. Let's go ahead and go to this map here. That includes activities since the 11th up to today. So today's activity is included. We're looking at 3,468 epicenters. That's a lot of movement, a lot of Tremor being picked up there. My throat was getting dry, so I had to grab something to drink real quick. And it's pretty much the entire level, or the entire section of the Cascadia Subduction Zone here, all the way up to northern Vancouver Island, through right around the southern part. I mean, it's a huge cluster up there. I mean, massive amount of Tremor being picked up there. Into southern Oregon and northern California, and sections south of there too, right around the edge of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. The only part we really haven't seen too much is this section here in the central part of Vancouver Island, and also into central Oregon. And I see that a lot, actually, when you're looking at Tremor map. This area doesn't get a whole bunch when the other ones are getting it. And then sometimes a day will pop up where only this area is getting some Tremor. But that's a lot of movement going on there, folks. Once again, 3,468 epicenters within, what are we looking at? 5 days, 6 days? So it's really important to pay attention and be prepared up there in the Pacific Northwest. And that includes me. That definitely includes me up here. I'm not for sure where those photos went to. I had a couple specific photos I was going to show you guys here, and I lost track of them. It basically showed where the slow slip event movement is taking place here, and I can't find it. So that's not a good thing. Stand by for 1 second. Let me see if I can bring up that image here. While I get that going, let me see here. It's pretty important. Let's see where it's at here. Okay, here's one image. Let's go ahead and open that up. Make this visible real quick here, and then we'll bring this here to a little bit bigger size if we can. Let's go ahead and do it a different way here real quick. That'll work. Kind of gives you a good idea here of what's going on here. You see the North American plate there to the right? and up into Vancouver Island, where all the Rocky Mountain areas are up there. I should just say mountainous areas up there. You can kind of see the slippage area below the North American plate down there in the green area, right? You can see where it says green. That's where we're seeing all this slip event going on down there, way down there. That's why it shows it underneath, or at least over, on the map it shows it over the western part of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, but it's way down there in that slippage area. And you got the locked section further upstream, if you will, into the yellow and into the red area where it says locked, and you guys can see that those arrows there pointing. So when we're seeing slippage further down south, right, we have to be expecting further pressure and further strain on the locked section as we see the slippage occurring. So that's why I say there's always a higher chance of seeing some type of release of energy in the locked section, whether it be an 8.0 or 9.0 or greater, when we're seeing this high amount of tremor movement along the north, the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't just disappear into thin air. It's obviously pressure's being built back up here into this region, into the locked section, and that's why I keep mentioning this in most of my videos recently, is about the massive amount of tremor that's taken place there. It's definitely noteworthy to mention the importance of it. And it's not fear-mongering tactics at all. This is basically all information that's not hidden from the public. It's not anything that isn't available to me, you, anybody. It's all right there. There's a ton of information when it comes to the Cascadia Subduction Zone area, and there's been a lot of research on it. Like I say, I'm really surprised we haven't seen any large surface crustal quakes like they mentioned up here around Washington and whatnot. Even around the deep section down here, we haven't seen a whole lot since looks like 2001 is when we've seen the last good-sized quake down there. 1872 for crustal quakes, and then of course the lock section here 1700. So something's brewing for sure. I don't know if animals know when it's going to happen. A lot of people think that cats and dogs know when it's going to happen. They do have that weird sense of activity, or that weird sense of knowledge. And the same goes with like the birds. I just seen a whole bunch of birds, snow geese, however you want to say it, flying over me here in Northern California over the last couple days, and it's September, early September. I don't remember that ever happening. Now that could be a sign of maybe an early winter, or it could be a sign of something, who knows, maybe they're trying to get away from the Pacific Northwest. I don't know. But I thought it was kind of strange to be hearing snow geese when it's 90-something degrees out here. Still technically summertime here in California, so yeah, we're looking at most seismologists agree we are due for another major earthquake anytime now. We've been hearing that about the San Andreas Fault too, right? Cascadia Subduction Zone. I think if we start to see a big one on the Cascadia Subduction Zone, it's gonna no doubt create some havoc for the San Andreas Fault too. It's got to. It's too close. It's too much in relation to one another to not have some type of effect. There is no way to predict when the earthquake will occur, but experts have calculated the following odds of occurrence during the next 50 years here. So it looks like 7 to 15% chance for a great earthquake. That's the entire rupture, 9.0 or above. 37% chance for a very large quake, with the fault breaking along southern Oregon with an 8.0 magnitude quake or higher. And there's a lot of information when it comes to damage potential for the tsunami. I mean, I would not want to be anywhere along the Oregon coast, and it's beautiful. There's some good people there. There's some history there. It's just I've always wanted to live in Oregon along the coast, but that was short-lived after I found out about this bad boy sitting underneath the Oregon coast. This page right here, what do we got here? This is the website right here if you want to check out more information from it. It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of graphs and information on, potential downtime. Electricity, looking at 1 to 3 months of restoration time for the valley. The coast could take 3 to 6 months. I mean, it could be a long time. Healthcare facilities, 18 months in the valley. Looking at 3 years along the coast. And talk about bridge collapses and whatnot. This is just for Oregon. If this earthquake, or if we see a full rupture 9.0 or higher, we could see that similarities northern California northward into Washington and Vancouver Island area. It's definitely going to be a bad deal when that thing goes, folks. So I do want to go into the latest earthquakes here real quick and show you about that, or mention about that quake that took place here in this area where we were seeing a little bit of a tremor. I guess it was right around this area here where we seen that new tremor today. I had a little surface quaking up here, 3.3 near Boonville, California, 3.9 kilometers below the surface there. Prior to that little activity near Covelo, we've been seeing, some activity in a weird area, I would say, over the last couple weeks. There was some small quakes going on there. As far as the rest of the area up here along the Pacific Northwest, pretty absent of any quakes. Some type of quarry blast there. A couple quarry blasts all over the place. Explosion. That's kind of odd. Let's see here. What do we got out there? Not 100% sure what's sitting out there in that region. Maybe some kids playing with, who knows? I don't want to say. But it could be anything. And let's see here. For the rest of the area, it's been pretty quiet up here as far as earthquake activity goes. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of activity there at St. Helens. Seen a little bit of activity right there in the dome, I guess, if you will, right there in that little center section. You got it marked at negative 03 for some reason. And I think I seen another one over here by Mount Rainier. Let's see where that went to. At least I thought I did. Oh. Little bitty one right at the tip of this mountain too. Beautiful. I remember seeing that. That's an awesome sight there. Just barely a one-pointer. But of course it is normal for them to see, periodically some earthquake activity. But for the most part, it's pretty quiet in the Pacific Northwest, folks. Idaho, still seeing a little bit of activity there with their typical aftershock sequences there. And around Yellowstone National Park, looks like some microquakes going on up there. But looking at the, let's see, where did it go here? Yellowstone thumbnails. Let's go ahead and refresh that real quick. Looking at this map here, you really can't tell that there's a whole lot of activity at all. Pretty minimal, maybe a couple small spikes there on this map. You can see one earthquake right there, maybe a couple more, but as far as the swarming goes in Yellowstone National Park, it's pretty much quieted down. No large clusters, and definitely no magma movement or lava magma movement. So everything looking pretty average, normal, I should say, for right now. Let's go back over here to this map here and take a look at the world activity that's taking place today. There's some activity down here near Guatemala. I think I said something about Dominican Republic there when I mentioned this quake. Not for sure why I said that, but definitely down there by Guatemala area, at least on the border, close to it. 5.2 earthquake, pretty deep, 91 kilometers below the surface here. That kind of set off some activity there in Northern California. It seemed like shortly after that 5.2, that's when we seen that 3.3 there near Boonville. There was some activity there in Chile. Looks like the USGS finally added that 4.8 that showed up on the scale or on the seismograph stations just before this 5.2 occurred. So a little bit of movement up and down this region of North America and South America area. Of course, the latest quake over here bouncing way back over here, thousands of miles towards the Indonesia area with that 4.3. And just kind of a bouncing back type of scenario with earthquake pressure transfer out here. It seems to take place quite often. So let's see what else we got here, folks. We'll go ahead and do it today in earthquake history here. Of course, this is September 16th, 2020. Back in 1978, on this date in earthquake history, we had a 7.4 magnitude quake strike the Middle East region there in eastern Iran. Pretty powerful earthquake that the USGS is stating there is one of the world's deadliest. Earthquake was centered about 600 kilometers southeast of Tehran in the vicinity of, I guess that's spelled or pronounced Tabas. And the fatality rate on that was pretty high there, with about 15,000 people there with that earthquake. And yeah, it was pretty bad deal back then in that area. Of course, the infrastructure and all that stuff like they have over there is not really the best, right? Compared to what we have here in the United States, is a little bit the code differences are a little bit different back there. And of course, back in '78, I'm sure it was even worse. So definitely an area that can see some large quakes, and will no doubt see some big ones in the future. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. That was a little bit longer than I had wanted to, but I covered a little bit of activity and information when it comes to the Cascadia Subduction Zone. Like I say, go check it out yourself. It's no hidden secret that there's a major sleeping giant out there, and it's called the Cascadia Subduction Zone. It's very similar to the region of Japan where they've seen that 9-pointer, that big 9-point, what was it, 9.1, 9.2, back in 2011. I believe that was the date. I remember watching that on TV, and it was pretty horrible. It created that large tsunami and created a lot of havoc back then. So very similar setup. Nobody actually knows when it's going to go, but it's good to pay attention when we're seeing this major tremor event going on. Just some words of advice out there, folks. Be prepared. All right, have a good night. We're going to get off here, and we'll chat you guys tomorrow sometime. Peace out.